DownHome Up Close is brought to you by...
Sometimes life brings us challenges, and when attorney Ron Johnson goes to work every day, he's ready to fight for you. Ron Johnson represents clients in personal injury and wrongful death cases, provides mediation in matters such as wills and real estate transactions, and assists with Social Security disability. His goal is to serve his community and help his clients navigate complicated systems to access the benefits and fair treatment they are entitled to by law. He'll make sure you understand your rights and responsibilities and won't leave you behind to fend for yourself. Ron Johnson's office is local, and he is accessible to work with you personally, whether face-to-face, by phone, or video conference. Let his 53 years of experience help guide you to peace of mind and the best possible outcome in your case. Your first consultation is free. Charges for Social Security disability services are subject to approval by the Social Security Administration. Call the law office of Ron B. Johnson at 972-938-7163 or visit www.lawofficeofronjohnson.com to schedule your free consultation. When you walk into your home, the first thing you come in contact with is your floor. You want it to be reliable and stylish, and you want to be sure you have the right professionals to design and craft it. OC Rugs has you covered. They provide durable products that stand the test of time and custom designs that will fit your aesthetic and preferences. OC Rugs products are constructed to be stable and prevent skidding, so anyone, whether you're taking your first steps or it's your first time visiting, can feel confident getting around your home. OC Rugs features products from Cooper Family Floors, a mobile, family-owned business committed to providing quality floor service at affordable prices. Cooper Family Floors puts the needs of the customer first, always seeking to make each project better than the last. They provide luxury vinyl plank and laminate flooring, as well as carpet and pad, engineering wood, and tile. Cooper Family Floors has a combined 42 years of flooring experience and will put that wisdom to work for you without breaking the bank. Whether you need a new floor installed in your home or the right rug to complete your perfect design plan, OC Rugs and Cooper Family Floors will get the job done right. Visit OC Rugs at their Lancaster showroom, located at 1920 North I-35E, or visit their website at www.ocrug.com. For Cooper Family Floors, call 214-437-7424 or visit www.cooperfamilyfloors.com.
February. For some strange reason in Texas, February is considered the month for roses, to trim them. So we usually set our time schedule for February as the time to trim your roses. As you know, last year during February we had the snow, so we probably did not do the process. This rose has been with me for 3 or 4 or 5 years. I know it does not look like it, but it sits in a container. And it does look pretty pathetic. I apologize, but it is alive and it will have roses. It has beautiful roses on it. So we are going to trim it. So not everyone would trim their roses in February, but because February is the month in Texas, North Texas, this is the time for rose trimming. All right, we are going to now look at the tools. The tools can be various sizes. If you've got a rose bush that's like this, you're going to need the big loppers. We will show that in just a minute. There are various things called bypass, and I'll show you a picture of those in just a minute. Long handle loppers. Now, some people have rose bushes that are like a hedge that goes across it. So if you have like roses that form a hedge, you can actually have bush roses, and you can trim the tops of them and the sides of them with the electric hedge trimmers. Now, very few people do that, but it is possible. A pruning saw. Now, you might ask, how or why would you use a pruning saw? And some people do have what they call tree roses. So if you have roses that have developed from a tree, they might be big, and you could use those as well. But the best possible choice is something very simple. These are a pair of snips. These are a special kind of scissors that have a serrated edge, so when you cut the roses, it will give it a cut that doesn't crush the stem. And then she has these are my standbys. I have about 10 of these because I can't find them usually, so if I have them in different places. So these are one you can use as well. So that's going to be the basis of tools. These are simple pruners. You can buy these. I tend to buy some that are not as expensive as you can buy because I have a tendency to lose things. So therefore you might find in the garden 2 or 3 pair from years ago. So I don't buy the very expensive ones. But if you are going to be a rose garden person, you need to buy a special pair of scissors just for your roses. And especially because we have the disease, rose rosette. Rose rosette is easily transferred from one rose bush to another by way of your hands, your gloves, your scissors, or just by the little mite that lives there. It is an aerophoid mite that lives on the roses, and it gets in there and it destroys them. That's why we lose our roses. These are the loppers. I have a pair of these, and I don't use these on any of my roses. But let's say if you've got a big garden and you need to reach over in there, then the loppers can be used so that you do not get entangled in the rose bushes. So I have in my backyard an area that's about 4 foot wide and 20 foot long, and so I have roses in the middle of it. So if I don't want to have to crawl into that area, I can use my loppers to trim them. So these are very nice. The problem with these is they are heavy. And when they're heavy, it makes it very difficult. Here's our simple hedge clippers. Most all of us have some of these. There are different kinds of hedge clippers. You will notice that these have a serrated edge on them. That is really nice because it makes a cleaner cut. You would think the ones that didn't have the serrated edge would make the cleaner cut. But these actually make a cleaner cut because when they do it, it doesn't crush the stem. So we're going to let her show us how we can use these 3 different things, and you can cut them anywhere along there just to make a cut with each one of those to show that anywhere you want. And see how easy that is? So they all make very good clean cuts, and that's what you want. And again, if we did this correctly, we would be spending an hour and a half going through here and getting out all of the dead ones. So that when we get through, we would have nothing but live stems that are coming out from the roots. Yeah, you can tell that's definitely dead. Very good. You can come to my house tomorrow. Okay, pruning saws. I didn't bring a pruning saw. I don't have a pruning saw that belongs to me. So if anybody has 2 of them, I will be glad to purchase it from you, or you can come over and do it for me. But pruning saws are nice when you have bush roses. You know, sometimes you have those bush roses that live and they get big, big stems and the root ball is spread out. That allows you to make a very good cut all the way through without it breaking. So if you've got those kind, it is best to use a pruning saw. So you notice that those teeth are very, very sharp. I have a pair. I don't have one of these because I have those loppers that you use that have a battery power to it. So you can cut off your own fingers. Aren't careful. Believe me. This is probably the best way. These are called floral snips or scissors. So you saw that you don't have to invest in expensive tools. And again, if you're like me, these get left out, and then I find them months later somewhere, or my dog finds them or something, digging them up. But you can use simple dollar store tools. You don't have to use expensive ones. As long as you make a clean cut. You need 1 cut very clean as you go through that. In Texas, and I don't understand because the last 2 years we've had snow very late. Why? This has happened because I've lived in Texas my whole life. But normally we have spring. And a few weeks after we trim our roses, then spring begins to come and it gets warmer, and then the roses begin to put out new blooms. Many roses do not bloom on old stems, so you have to cut them back. So when you got this rose bush that you go, this belonged to my aunt so-and-so, and she's had it for 100 years, and I'm afraid to do anything to it. If I cut it, it'll probably die. If you don't cut it, you probably will not get roses because they need to be trimmed. The blooms, true or false? Blooms will grow on new and old stems. False. Blooms only come about on new stems. So that's why we had her cut the stems. So this is actually going to probably be cut back very severe so that we will get nice blooms on it. It does not produce blooms on old stems. So when you've got a rose bush that you've had in your yard for 100 years and you go, my aunt had this and she gave it to me and it bloomed every year in her yard. It's because she trimmed it. And it's very hard for me sometimes to do that. It's like, I'm not sure I really want to do that. Blooms, here we go. Blooms grow only on new growth. You need to keep it within the size. The shrub needs to be a normal size. And again, people want these great big rose bushes and they go, no roses, no roses. What's happening? Because it does need to be trimmed and they will produce very rapidly. This is imperative. I am sure you have heard of the disease rose rosette. This is an example of a rose bush that has the disease. You will notice that when you get this, you think, okay, I can cut it off and it will grow. No. I hate to say this, but you need to dig up the rose bush, wrap it in a plastic bag, and throw it away. I know it's depressing because even if you cut this rose bush down to this height, the rose rosette will come back. This is a disease caused by a mite, a little bitty microscopic mite, an aerophoid mite. And it goes from one bush to the other, and it will go in the wind. So this is an example. What is very important that people do not realize is that you need to clean your tools. And it probably would not hurt to even clean your tools while you're doing the same rose bush. So it's going to say in the next one, you need to use, the best choice is alcohol. So if you take a cup of alcohol and you put your tools down in it, and then you make your cut, and then you put it back in the alcohol, that way you will not transmit, hopefully, the mite. Once you get this in your yard, you cannot stop it. The only thing you can do is dig up the rose bush, put it in a plastic bag, and burn it. So the Arboretum in Tyler and some of the other places have had a terrible problem with this. And it is an uncontrollable little microscopic organism. But cleaning your tools is very, very important. You can use, this is a very good technique to save your tools. You notice that this container at the top has some kind of sand in it. This is a good way to keep all of your tools. If you have a lot of garden tools, and even long handle garden tools, if you have a container with sand in it, and you keep your tools in there, it will keep them from rusting. So that is a good way to keep your tools. You need to clean your tools between each rose bush, for sure. I like to clean my tools between several cuts within the rose bush. Alcohol will kill the mites and other harmful critters, but you can't get all of them off of the rose bush, even if you cut it down, because they're probably in the soil. This has been a horrible experience for people who love to grow roses. And there are other plants that do have the erythroid mite that lives on them, but nothing like the roses. You can also use bleach, but bleach, I don't recommend that, mainly because it's more harmful to you and more harmful to breathe. Start the pruning by looking at the type of rose you have. These are the various types of rose petals that you get. So if we look at the next slide, you will see that there are different kinds of rose petals. Globular, that's the one on the left, the open cut, quartered, flat, rosette, palm, and high center. All of these are different roses. It does not matter which kind of rose bush you have, they're all going to be the same as far as trimming them, unless you have a little hybrid tea. And a hybrid tea does not grow very tall, so you need to be especially careful in pruning it and not prune it back so far. I have seen people take rose bushes and cut them off where they're this all the way to the ground except for this. Is that acceptable? They will grow back if they don't have the mite. They will come back healthy, possibly. But if you really want beautiful roses, you need to take these, and as you saw, she trimmed them for us. Hopefully always trim them at an angle. Does anybody know why you want to trim them at an angle? So when it rains, the water does not stay on the top of the stem. So if you trim at an angle, when you trim at that angle, the water goes off. If the water stays in the end of the stem, you may get some rot from it. So that's one of the reasons that we do that. Ask yourself, what kind of rose bush do I have? We have the shrub rose. We know the shrub rose usually produces just single petals around. Then we have some that grow very tall and lanky. And you can reduce them, would you have guessed, up to 50%? Please do not go over 50%. The roots are usually healthy, but the stems need the sunlight. They need the nutrients. What do you do after you worked really hard during the day? You go in, you get a glass of tea, you sit down, you eat a good meal. What should you do to your roses after they've had a hard day? Maybe fertilize them. You can see where we said we need to trim them to get new roses. See where the former cut was? So a stem comes out from there and produces, so here's our stem. The roses are going to come out from the new growth. So that's why we need to cut them back. You're not going to get roses off of certain kinds except for maybe floribunda. Those are the ones that are just like bushy. Use your pruners. Look how they've gone in and they've cut right here. Did you find any that have a section like this right here?
Yeah.
To cut? So we need to cut right below that section. So she's going to show us that we would take and find an area and then cut right below it at an angle. Therefore, that's going to make our healthier roses. Make sure your tools are sharp. I have to tell you, one time, I'm a master gardener. You're not supposed to go do master gardening without someone with you. Well, I had some new pruners in my pocket, and I thought, I will stop by Getzendinger, or however you pronounce that, Getzendinger, and I will do some trimming on the roses since I'm here. I put them in my pocket, and they were brand new, and I cut my finger. And I almost bled to death before I got back to Lowe's to say, do you have any Band-Aids? Because I had cut myself. They were so sharp. But you do want nice and sharp tools, but not to cut yourself. 45-degree angle, facing outward. A line for circulation. If you have circulation among the branches, it will help reduce the erythroid mite if the air can get through them. Horticultural oil. We have to put oil in our car. What do we do about plants? Horticultural oil can be purchased. You can use your horticultural oil to apply to your leaves. If you apply them not too thick, but liberally to some of the leaves, it will help keep diseases and things off your leaves. It will help keep the bugs off your leaves. So you can use this horticultural oil. Some people have never even heard of it. So we might use that.
Will that keep the mites off?
It will not keep the airfoid mite off. The airfoid mite cannot at this point be killed except for burning, unfortunately. Fertilizer. We're hungry, plants are hungry. It does not take a lot, but when you are getting ready, finished your rose bush, you've trimmed it up, it's just telling you, I'm ready to produce these beautiful blooms, but I'm hungry. So you need to feed it. You can buy rose food. I like to make my own compost. I have a compost bin out back. And I actually have potatoes growing out of it right now, which is extremely weird. But bananas, no meat, of course, but you can also you can buy food for the roses. You do need to fertilize them somehow once a year, either from your compost pile or from the rose food. To end the program, I'm always trying to come up with something. Happy pruning. My husband's like, what are you going to do? Because I always trying to do something funny, either started or ended. And I sat for half an hour going, can I come up with anything? And I thought, a pruning. So,